Chachamim, B'nai Torah, husbands, parents, grandparents, and they're all sitting here in this Beis Medrash. Let's for a moment just think of the effect of Rabbi Avrohom on life in the last 50 years. How many hundreds of Talmidim did he bring to Torah and Yiddishkeit? And they themselves brought others and are still bringing others. And they married and raised children. Erlich Yidden because of him. Children, grandchildren. How many thousands, if not tens of thousands of Yidden are Shomrei Torah, mitzvahs, makbin and kalaka v'chamura because of the day that HaRav Avrohom Rockmill walked into the doors of our Sameach. And look what he did. Look what one individual can do with his life. Look how many tens of thousands of people, Talmidim, children of Talmidim, Talmidim of Talmidim, Talmidim's Talmidim, grandchildren, and those who support Torah, whether it's our Sameach and other meisters, all one man. Do you want to summarize the history of our Sameach in 2 words? Avrohom Rockmill. That's the history. That's what the Yeshiva Shlita meant. Mishnah says in Avos, B'shas p'tirasei shel Adam, when a person dies, ein melavin loy la'adam, a person is not accompanied by kesef v'zav, gold and silver, avanim tovos u'margolios, precious jewels, elatoiru masim tovim bilvad. How many people, how much toiru masim tovim was melave Rebbi Avrohom Zatzal when he was nifter? Stars would shine forever. And the Gemara gives various explanations of this pasuk. V'amazhirim, amaskilim yazhira k'zayir rakia, elu gaboy tzedakah. Why a gaboy tzedakah? And the Nesivos in his Pirush Nachlas Yankov explains that yazhiru means a reflection. A gaboy tzedakah has to reflect the needs of those who he's helping, and cannot put any personal considerations into his decisions. That's one shot. Umatzdike harabim kekochavim lo'elam v'ed elu melamde tinokos. These are those who teach infants. You know why it's called a tinok? The tinok is because he nurses from his mother. And malame tinoikos doesn't only mean someone who is chronologically an infant. An infant is someone who never had a chance to learn, never had a chance to nurse the milk of Torah. And that is kekochavim lo'elam va'ed. Why lo'elam va'ed? Why stars forever? Because the hashpah, the influence of a melamed tinoikos is lo'elam va'ed, as we said. It's forever. Not only his own children, not only his own Talmidim, their Talmidim, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. It's forever. And it's Kizayah Harakia. Rebbe Avrohom Zatzal gave each person what he needed, and he gave it to them like a nursing mother who was always there for her child. And it doesn't matter if the child is 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 30 years. When he had a Talmud, it was forever. It was forever, and he taught like a nursing mother. Nursing mother sometimes has to encourage her infant to nurse, gives him a little, spritzes him a little, and slowly he develops an appetite. How much individual attention, how much tailor-made chinuch did Rabbi Avrohom give his Talmidim for the last 40 years? And he kept up with them. And you know who the Gemara over there says was this person who was a Malamed Tinokos? This was the Reb Shmuel Bar Shilas that Rav told, I want you to make sure that your hesped reflects reality. Because Reb Shmuel Bar Shilas, who saw the people when they were Tinokos, when they were just starting out in life, and he saw what Rav did with them. And he saw 10, 20, 30, 50 years later how the hashpah, how the influence of Rav was kekochavim lo'olam va'ed. This was Rebbe Avrohom Zatzal. And we are not being over any gezerah on exaggerating. Every single word of these Gemaras describes him. You want to describe Or Sameach in 2 words? What the Yeshiva Shlita meant, means, and will mean? It's HaRav Avrohom Rockmill. And as the Mishnah, the Brisa concludes in Avos, these Torah Maisim Tovim Amalavahim. Where? Here, Bisalechacha Tanchaischa. When you go here in this world, it guides you. Everything Rabbi Avrohom did. What does the Torah want from me today? What does the Torah need from me today to do with my Talmud? B'shachvecha, as the pasuk continues, when you pass on, Tishmor Alecha. This is his protection for the last month. V'hakitzosa, and in Olam Haba, which is not necessarily then now. Hi tisichecha, this is what you will be speaking about. And as the Sforim HaKadoshim say, that a person who is zoicha to teach Torah in this world, Lacher Me'ah V'Esrim, teaches it upstairs as well. So as we speak today, the Hasam Koimna, Rabbi Avrohom Zatzal, is giving a shear in the Olam HaEmes to the Tinoikos. He was the ultimate Malamed Tinoikos, not chronological in age, but in knowledge of Judaism. And that he is continuing in the Olam HaEmes. It is our zechus that we had the privilege of knowing him and understanding the heights that a human being can attain, because he wanted to, because he understood what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from him, and he made the lives of tens of thousands of people directly and indirectly happy and better by bringing them close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and teaching them his Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help that Rabbi Avrohom in the Olam HaEmes should continue his mission. He should be v'akitzoisa hi tesichecha ki bi yir v'yomecha v'yosifu l'cha shnois chayim Kadosh Baruch Hu should help Ubila Amavis Lanetzach, Umocha Hashem Elikim Dima Me'el Kolponim, B'nai Maramein.
Evel Yochid Asilach means make a private, individual avelus. An individual avelus is applicable to someone when a wife loses a husband, a son loses a father, the father loses a son, which unfortunately is happening too often here in Israel lately. But here, the Mekoinen and the Kinnis and Yirmiyahu are talking about Churban HaBayis. Churban HaBayis isn't an Evel Yochid. Churban HaBayis isn't an individual avelus. Churban HaBayis is a national tragedy. It's a national avelus, the avelus of the Rabim. The explanation is that when something is national and something's of the Rabim, one tends to individually disconnect from it. It's all of our problem. It's a national issue. Yes, I'm part of the tzibur, but it doesn't affect me individually. The Mekoine and Yirmiyahu wants us to know the Churban HaBayis must be treated as an avelus yochid, an individual avelus. Don't treat it as a national tragedy. Feel it as an individual, private, personal tragedy. Wherever Rabbi or Sameach is suffering from an avelus Rabim, or Sameach worldwide has lost the Rebbi, the Talmid Chochem of Rabbi Rockmill. That's so. Aval, but for so many individuals, and myself included, this is a avelus yochid. I had a 40-year friendship, a 40-year mentorship with Rabbi Rockmill Zatzal. It began when I entered the Yeshiva, and at that time he was not a Magid Shir over here. He was an Avreich in the Mir. The Mir of those days wasn't what the Mir is today. Shir to say Chaburas, and he will sit in and vet them. So one time he got me to say Chabura, and I had a lot of siyata dishmai because I said a mahalach in the Rashba that very much found favor in his eyes. For decades afterwards, he was mechazik me about that. Even recently, whenever he saw me, you remember that Rashbin Kedushin? You remember the Rashbin Kedushin? An ongoing chizuk, decades later. He was very much involved in Mashidduch. His father-in-law, Ludwig Stahl, and my father-in-law, Lahavdil Ben Achaim Lachayim, worked in South Africa in the same offices. Ludwig was an engineer, and my father-in-law is an architect, and they share the same offices in South Africa. Lunchtime, they used to get together and have a chavrus in Teru Tamima. Subsequently, my parents-in-law made Aliyah, and they actually lived over here in Maladafna. And they were neighbors of the young couple, Rabam and Rockmill. And so Rabbi Rockmill knew my in-laws very well. So very encouraged me, mechazek me, in terms of going into the shidduch, very instrumental in the shidduch. My wife is forever grateful to him. We spent many hours of discussion together, many hours. whether it was in his office, which used to be next to the office of the old Ejes Noshim, that small office there, whether it was in his new office in Mili, his later office in Mili, in my office, over the telephone. Many hours we spent discussions together. The topic of discussion was Or Samayach. Or Samayach, that was the sugya, that was his topic. It was in his blood and his soul. Eivel Yochid Osiloch. I lost my mentor. I've lost my anchor. I've lost my friend. The Gemara says, Chazal say, Kol mi she'efshar limchois la'anshe beisa v'lo micha nitpas al anshe beisa. Is ever in a position to rebuke, correct the members of his family and doesn't do that, so he's held accountable for the various actions of his household. Anshe iroi, nitpas al anshe iroi. Is able to correct the inhabitants of his city, and he doesn't, he's also held accountable for that. B'kol olam kuloi, he's able to rebuke the whole world, and he doesn't, he's also held accountable for that. The Yesod Chazal is telling us here, the principle that Chazal is telling us here is different people have different spheres of influence. Depending on who you are, where you are, what you're about, you have different spheres of influence. Some can influence just their family, some can't even do that. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects you to use that koiches to influence who and what you can influence. Rabbi Rockmill had those koiches. Rabbi Rockmill had those koiches and he used those koiches. He influenced his family. He influenced Bnei Ha'ir, his neighbors. Talmid Or Sameach. He influenced Talmidim worldwide. He was passionate about teaching. Often he had other minutes to maybe do this, that, the other, but he often confided me and said to me, but I love teaching so much. It's my life mission. And it didn't matter how he was teaching, whether he was teaching one-on-one, whether he was teaching a shiur, or whether he was teaching a public lecture, which he often did, gave public lectures here from this very podium on Shavuos night, Hoshana Rabbah. He had so many one-on-ones at the back of this Beis Medrash. And it didn't make a difference. If he was giving a shiur to 200 people, was equivalent to a one-on-one in terms of the chashivas. He was passionate about teaching in whichever form it may be, and he did so well. Kol Yishar HaRavim Zeh Lezeh, he felt that HaRavis. Or Sameach was founded as a Baal Tshuva Yeshiva over 52 years ago. Even though today we have a bit of a more of a heterogeneous population, that's just because our Hatzloch has been so infectious over here. But the primary mission of Or Sameach was and remains Balei Tshuva and Kiruv. We have partial testimony to that. We have this Jali, mentor mission here. Rabbi Shiller Shlita often relates when he floated this revolutionary idea to start a Baal Tshuva Yeshiva over 52 years ago, is met with a lot of opposition. I'm quoting Rav Shiller Shlita. Firstly, people asked him, where are you going to find Talmidim for such a yeshiva? And even if you do find Talmidim, where are you going to find Rabbonim to teach these Talmidim? And even if you do find Rabbonim, where are you going to find the finance for this? Concludes Rav Shiller, 2 of the 3 problems have been solved. Moreover, Rabbi Rockmill Zatzal was intent on solving the third problem as well. He was one of a handful of people who qualified for all of those three categories that Rabbi Shlita mentioned. Talmidim, Rabbonim, and involved in the fundraising of maintaining the financial health of the yeshiva. And he was very successful at that, and the reason for success was because of the success in the teaching bred and led to the success in the fundraising. Because he had that kesher with the Talmidim, and the Talmidim felt the kesher and wanted to help him out and pay him back. The one lent to the other. He had a very clear Torah shkofa, and analyzed what's going on in the world, the very many events of the world in the eyes of the Torah. I believe he got that from Moreinu Rabbeinu, Rabbi Weinbach Zatzal, when every shmooze and any shmooze of Weinbach Zatzal gave, he would analyze the goings on of the world's event via the Torah perspective. And Rabbi Rockmill always used to say, when what was going on, the pshat is this terrible war that we're in, that broke out on Simchas Torah, terrible war we're in, we're still suffering from it. Said to me, Rabbi Rockmill Zatzal, the pshat is, we weren't Zoich and Hoshana Rabbah. Pshat is, Hoshana Rabbah is Chitum Adin. That's when we have a final Gmar Din. We weren't Zoich to Chitum Adin. That's why the next day, Lo Aleinu Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah. That's the pshat. Pshat, world affairs, yeah, pshat. He would express his opinion quite clearly if he felt certain things that were being done were not to chinuch, and be firm about it. But at the same time, he would not step on the toes of other people who were maybe much more younger than him and less experienced. He had that sensitivity. So the first couple of days he came, he said the shir, and then went back home. Then 2 days later, he came also for Chazorah Seder, afternoon Seder, he walked in. Because it's very hard for him to speak, so I was wearing this like microphone to speak to his Talmidim, to learn with them, answer their questions. He came to me when I saw him, Baruch haba, he's coming back to Chazorah Seder. He said to me, yes, I'm building up, I'm building my strength up, I'm building up. Apparently the Gezeir was Nigzero. We have to wait for his full return. For Bias HaMashiach and Chias HaMeisim b'mhera v'yameinu. Amen.
Rosh Yeshiva, or the Rabbonim of the Yeshiva. It's been almost 30 days since the quite sudden Petira of Rabbi Rockmill. It's been 30 days, the Yeshiva as a whole, and to a big degree, so many individuals here in the Yeshiva and all around the world have been grappling with that tremendous sense of loss and a tremendous feeling of avelos. When we got together, myself we had a group of bochum, 30 bochum, we sat down together. There was crying in the room. We're talking about a week after he was nifta, crying in the room and laughing at the same time. Laughing as they remembered somebody they loved so much and the memories they had and the sense of humor he had with them, and crying as they grappled with that sense of loss, with the loss of a Rebbi. Chazal say that when a Talmud Chochem is nifta, all of Klal Yisrael should participate in the Levaya. Just like Torah was given with 600,000 Yidden in front of all of Klal Yisrael. So when a Talmud Chochem is nifta and the Torah goes back up to Shemayim, all of Klal Yisrael should participate in that Levaya. But the sense of mourning we have is more than of a Talmud Chochem Shenifta. The sense of mourning that there is a sense of mourning of a Rebbi which was Nifta, a friend which was Nifta, and for many, like a father which was Nifta. Chazal say a father and a Rebbi are compared. A Rebbi brings, a biological father, brings a child into Olam Hazeh, and a Rebbi brings his child, brings his Talmid into the next world, gives him a seat in the next world. But the Rav was maybe both to so many of us. He was certainly a Rebbi. He taught us how to learn from the basics right up. He could give shir, as Rav Konek was saying before, he would give shir on the most basic level, and he was prepared, and he gave shir on the highest level, from the most intricate ideas in Hashkafa, Musar, and Lomdas. And he could go right down and teach somebody how to read, translate, build a Gemara, build a Marsha, build a Tosfos. He taught people derech hachayim, what to do in life, how to behave in life, how to improve one's midas, how to improve one's hashkafa. This was all a Rebbe of Olam Haba. But he was so much a father in Olam Hazeh. He shared in the pain. He was someone who everyone could confide with. He was somebody who loved and cared. Somebody who spent hours of time together with every person who was interested in it. And that's why the Avelis had that mixed feeling of both the loss of a Rebbe, a loss of a Rav, but a Talmud Chochem, but also the loss of a father. And myself, even never being a formal Talmud, but I personally had a tremendous feeling of loss. It was really his encouragement and convincing that he brought me to this yeshiva, that I came here, and I have tremendous hakaras hatov to him because I can't think of a better place to be in. We spent hours together, and he would talk any subject that I wanted to talk about. We spent many hours together talking about everything and anything. And also in education, and how to mechanech, and how to teach, and influence on bochrim. He had all the time. So I myself feel like a tremendous loss, not just of a colleague, but of a friend and of a Rebbe. Yeah, he was so many years older than me, and yet he treated me as if we were equal. Obviously we weren't. He was many, many years ahead of me. But that feeling he gave, like Rav Konek himself mentioned, of equalness, of closeness. I think if he was here, he would always teach people to examine everything in life and to learn from it. So if he was here, he would tell us, examine what you've learned from the Nifta. Try to bring it into your life. Continue in the ways he's taught you, and it'll be good for yourself, and it'll be good for the Nifta, Leilin Nishmasa. So Birshuschem, maybe mention three ideas that we learned from him, that he taught and that we saw in his example. And Beis Hashem, it should be Le'inin Nishmasa. Firstly, is Avas HaTorah. His Avas HaTorah had no bounds. He Poshet loved learning. You'd go into his office, and he was alone in his office at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd knock on his door, you would see him with a Gemara there. Always. He loved learning. He loved Chidushim. He loved Chidushi Torah. Every time he spoke, he would say a Chidush. Very rarely did I hear him say the same Chidush more than once. He always had new Chidushim. He was a Mechadesh. Both in Torah, in Gemara, in Halacha, and also in Hashkafa, in Musa. He was always thinking and always adding. And when he would say his Chidushim, you would see his enthusiasm, his passion, his excitement. He lived it. He lived the Torah that he was teaching. If a Talmud had a question, he was as excited with his Talmud's question as with his own pshat. Many times in Shiva, Talmud asked a question, he would suddenly stop the shir. No, stop. Let's look at the Rambam. Let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. Let's look at the Rashba. Let's look at the Ritva. Maybe we can have a pshat. Maybe a few days later, as he was walking down the stairs, the Talmud would bump into the Talmud, ask the question, said, "I've got a teretz for you. Come, let me show you. Let me show you the Rambam." He lived the Torah. He loved the Torah. And he viewed the whole world through the prism of Torah. He had no interest and no excitement from the materialistic Western world and culture. He made fun of it. And it came through his clarity of Torah life, of Torah vision. He had tremendous bitochen, which came from the Torah. He knew that everything that Kodesh Baruch Hu does is toiv, and he lived with it. The last few weeks of his life, we saw that come to such a tremendous degree. He was well aware of how bad his prognosis was. I think everyone was somewhat stunned by the sudden deterioration, but he was well aware that his diagnosis was not a good one. But when we spoke about it, he would just go, "Shema Kodesh Baruch Hu, it'll be okay." He lived with betochen, and that was with other things in life, other difficulties he had experienced. He lived and he accepted HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he recognized everything's toiv. And he mamish the last few weeks of his life, he tried encouraging people to recognize Tovas Hashem. Did that his whole life, but we really saw it in the last few weeks when he was telling everyone to appreciate everything we have in life. Live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't make too much out of anything which is unimportant. Dedicate your life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dedicate your life for Torah. That was, I think, one leading message of his whole life. Avas HaTorah, Avas Hashem. A second area. HaRav Rockmill taught to be a man of action. He was a soldier. It says in the Pasuk, Va'avom bo bayomim. Avrom, talking about Avram Avinu, obviously, was a man of days. He was a zokein. He was an old man. But the Pali Musa say, Va'avom bo bayomim. Avram Avinu came with days. He arrived when he was nifta with many days, many full days that he had used. And I think we can say of our Rebbe Avram, he was bo bayomim. Every day was a full day. He was a man of action, and he was never scared to work hard. He was in Yeshiva for many, many hours every day. I think longer than anyone else. 12 hours, 14 hours. He came early in the morning and left late at night. He was never scared to go near and far to participate in a simcha, to fundraise. He would go by foot. He didn't take necessarily, if it was within walking distance, he would walk. Walking distance for him meant an hour, where he would also walk often. I went on many walks with him. Yeah, I would sometimes begin feeling rather tired after a time, but he was going strong. I remember once, we were talking and then he wanted to go home. He had to go home, but he wanted to go through Geula to buy a ksuva for chasna. So he didn't get a bus up Yecheskel. He walked up Yecheskel, then down Mesharim. We got the ksuva. We went up Malcha Yisrael. A whole long walk. He was 30 years my senior, but to my admission, he was much fitter. We had chasnas to go to. If somebody would give him a lift, he would be happy. He didn't look for it. He'd be happy to get a bus. He wasn't scared to get a bus. He wasn't scared to, would leave the chasna. He didn't look around for a lift. Somebody gave him a lift, he would take it. If not, he would get a bus. He didn't mind working hard. That was something he taught. He used to teach Talmidim so much. Nothing is worse than doing nothing. Be a man of action. Utilize your life. Utilize your strengths. And he felt responsibility to Klal Yisrael. It wasn't just to the Yeshiva. I discovered that he was machzik, he helped support Koilalim, which he wasn't directly that connected to. He had some family who was learning there. He helped support that Koilel. Let's not talk about Yavniel, a whole town in the north, south of Tveria, where he often used to go even once a week, I think, to give shurim there. There was a 7-8 hour drive, bus ride there and back, just to give a shir there. He wasn't scared to put himself out. He felt it was a te'elis, he went. He felt responsibility for Klal Yisrael. He used to go there for Shabbos, I think, once a month. Spent Shabbos in Yavniel once a month. He built the cheder there in Yavniel. And he never told anyone anything about this. It was just by chance I discovered it. And I discovered that many of the Rabbonim and the Yeshiva didn't even know about it. Years and years he's been involved in the whole Kehillah, and we're close friends, but he never said anything. He was a man of action, not a man of words. He spoke a lot. He was a big Baal Darshan, gave shurim all day. But he didn't speak about his own private Ma'asim Tovim. He was actually a man of tremendous silence. He taught Lashon Hara his whole life. Every week, every Friday, give a shir in Chavetz Chaim, and he kept to it. He was so careful of Lashon Hara. Every time he would say something, if he felt it was a real te'eles, he had to share it. A real te'eles. He would say something like, I'm saying this te'eles. Now, it's obvious it's te'eles. No Rabbonim just say Lashon Hara to each other. I mean, I hope not. But he would always say, I'm saying it te'eles. He wanted to, remain focused. Only te'eles. He kept many secrets of other people. Anything he knew, he didn't share with other people. He kept it to himself. People knew they could confide with him, and he would keep it safe. And he didn't talk about all his ma'asim tovim that he did. And thirdly, he was a tremendous Rebbi. He has a tremendous ability to connect with all types of people. He used his knowledge of culture, his sense of humor, his incredible sense of humor, his ability to be young. Most people at the age of 30, they retire. They go into pension. They can't make certain jokes. But he, at the age of 70, was able to connect with people of 20, of 16, of 15, with a youngness, with a sense of youthfulness. And he utilized his understanding of culture of all types to connect, whether it was Ashkenazi or Sephardi, Hasidish or Litvish. He had, I remember, Satmar boys in his in Milli there in the intermediate. Whether it was American or English, South African or Ukrainian or Russian, made no difference. He could connect to anyone. And he built bridges with them, and he believed in them and helped them. Rabbeinu Yonah writes, the biggest chesed, or amongst the biggest chasodim someone could do, is to give them eitzah tova. Now, we all like giving eitzah tovos. Most people I know see themselves as very big eitzah tova givers. Yeah, somebody asks you what they think, you give an eitzah, you just say what comes to your mind. But Rabbeinu Yonah, when he describes giving an eitzah, says the person has to be male eitzah sagunois lechavero. You have to think, you have to spend time thinking, considering. He would spend hours with eitzah tova. A bacher would sit next to him and he would consider everything that this boy had, his past, his future, and his present. His qualities, not only in learning, his qualities in his background, his character. Was he good at cooking? Was he musical? Did he have a sense of humor? Was he good at speaking? Was he good at writing? Which country would be best for him? Tailor-made. Eitzah hagunos. So many people he raised them up. He put them on their feet. He believed in people so much. People, Talmidim, who had given up on themselves, who their parents had given up on them to some degree. Other teachers had given up on them. But he believed in people. He saw people's qualities. He recognized that with a little bit of patience, a little bit of humor, a little bit of work, people could become very great. And so many people owe their greatness to him. I remember one bacher mentioned that he had a slight crooked back. Rabbi Rockmill recommended him to go to a doctor in Tel Aviv to improve his posture. Well, a couple of weeks later, Rabbi Rockmill asked him, you've gone to Tel Aviv yet? You've gone to this doctor you recommended? He said, well, I haven't got around to it. No, Rabbi Rockmill's not a man of inaction. He said, come with me. Went on a bus with him to Tel Aviv, went to the doctor together. That's a good way of making sure he goes to the doctor. He cared for his Talmidim. I want to finish off with a vart of last week's parsha, which maybe ties into some of the ideas we just said. Yeah, the Meraglim came to Eretz Yisrael, and they saw an Eretz Oicheles Yoshver. They saw a land where people were dying. The Canaanim were dying, one by one. So they came back, and they reported, we've seen a land where people are dying. Asks the Haflah, people are dying in Eretz Yisrael? Eretz Yisrael is a good land. How could it be that people are dying? How is it? I mean, they weren't lying. It's true. They saw people dying. How could it be that people were dying in Eretz Yisrael? Everyone knows Rashi's pshat. Rashi gives the teretz. I want to tell you the teretz of the Haflah. Remarkable pshat, Haflah says. He asks another question. What was Yeshua and Kalev's response? They responded, Eretz toivo hi ma'oid ma'oid. Eretz Yisrael is a very good land. If somebody says it's a place where everyone's dying, the response is it's a very good land. It's not much of a response, is it? Not very convincing. People are dying. Why is it a very good land? What makes it good if people are dying? Says the Haflo in Ponim Yofos. Eretz Yisrael is different to all other countries. Eretz Yisrael is an Eretz Kodesh. It's got Kedusha in it. He doesn't say this, but may I add. It's a land that the produce which grows in Eretz Yisrael has Kedusha. What does the produce scream out? The produce screams out, support Torah with me. Give me to Koyanim and to Leviim, which support Torah. Give me to Aniyim. Do Chesed. That's the produce of Eretz Yisrael. It's got Kedusha. Kedusha Sa'aretz. Eretz Yisrael does not like Oivei Aveira. The Pasuk in Achrei Moi says, why were the Canaanim thrown out of Eretz Yisrael? Why did they die? Says the Pasuk. Because the Canaanim did Aveiros. Kashe ko'es agoya shelifneichem. The Canaanim did Aveiros. And that's why Eretz Yisrael chucked them out, threw them out, sicked them out. Says the Ponim Yofo, says the Haflo. When the Meraglim came into Eretz Yisrael, at that moment was the beginning of us conquering Eretz Yisrael, was the moment of Kiddush. This was the moment that Eretz Yisrael was coming to its tafkid, for Klal Yisrael to live here. At that moment, Eretz Yisrael began kicking out, began vomiting out the Canaanim, the Oivei Aveira, and they began dying one by one. The Meraglim coming in, Eretz Yisrael chucks out the Oivei Aveira. So the Meraglim distorted it, and they said it's an Eretz Eicheles Yeshivah. Says Kolev in Yeshua, it's an Eretz Toiva Ma'oid Ma'oid. It's a remarkable land. It's an Eretz Kodesh. It can't take Oivei Aveira. This is a land which wants to serve the Torah and serve Chesed. This is the Pshat of the Haflo, and let me just add one final thought to the Haflo. So what's the Pshat in the Meraglim? So what were the Meraglim thinking? Why did they say it's an Eretz Eicheles Yeshivah? They didn't know the secret. They didn't know that Eretz Yisrael was an Eretz Kodesh which threw out the Oivei Aveira. Maybe they didn't know. And maybe they deliberately distorted it. But maybe we can say another Pshat. Maybe the Meraglim, they were saying to Klal Yisrael, don't go to Eretz Yisrael, it's a dangerous place to be. Who knows if you will live up to the standards of Eretz Yisrael? Maybe Chas v'Shalom, we Klal Yisrael will also fall like the Canaanim. Maybe the Eretz Yisrael will spit us out as well. Let's live in Chutz La'aretz, where it's safe, where we don't have to live up to such dangerous standards. No, what's the response? Good time, no? I think if Rabbi Rockmill would be here, and if we can talk about the three things we mentioned, maybe his response would be, and maybe this is the response. Is life about giving up on yourself? Is life about living on a low standard? Do you not believe in yourself? Do you not believe you can rise up to who you are? Do you not realize that we can live in Eretz Yisrael and become true and great Yidden? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us that we should come to Eretz Yisrael, look through the prism of the Torah. Have bitochen in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He knows what's good for us. Believe in Him. The first thing we mentioned, looking through the world through the prism of Torah. Hashem says, come to Eretz Yisrael. Let's come to Eretz Yisrael. We'll succeed. The second thing, we're scared of hard work. Yeah, maybe it's sometimes hard, but put in the effort and you'll succeed. You may sometimes fall, but overall, people which work hard succeed. If you're prepared to put in the effort, you'll become great. And thirdly, believe in yourself. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in us, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks we can make it, we will make it. We will become the Am HaNivcha, the Am that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for. Just finish off, I think we have a tremendous hakaras hatov to the Rebbitzin. The Rebbitzin who's been behind the right-hand lady, I should say, behind HaRav Rockmill all these years. All the many, many hours he spent in Yeshiva, all the weeks and months he spent abroad fundraising, was all from her dedication to the Yeshiva and dedication to the Bochum. Many Shabbos meals Bochum had in her house. And there's a tremendous hakaras hatov to her. My last few hours with HaRav Rockmill was a few hours before he was nifta, 36 hours before he was nifta, we spent saying Divrei Torah. He couldn't speak, but he was interested in hearing and communicated back. And then as I left, he gave me a smile and went to me like this: be strong. So, Bez Hashem, we should all take the ideas we learned from him. It's hard, we miss him, but Bez Hashem will live up to what he would want us to become, and it'll be a tremendous Ilui Neshama for him. Ubila Hashem Dimra Kolponim.
Shus, Reb Nata, Reb Badowitz, all the Rabbonim Chashuvim, Yeshiva Sameach, and Morei Rabboisai. I look at this address as an awesome, huge responsibility. For almost 40 years, as you've heard, HaRav Avrohom Rockmill, Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, was a magnificent, larger-than-life mashpia in Yeshiva Sameach. His Talmidim number in the many hundreds, extremely devoted, and consider themselves so fortunate. I know for all of you here, 30 days later, it's still impossible to imagine the magnitude of this loss. These feelings are vast and deep, a boundless love, respect, and a chorus atov. Hashem Yitain, we should find the words to express our emotions appropriately in honor of his memory. I had the schus some 36 years ago, together with Rabbi Yaakov Asher Sinclair, Danny Lemberg, and Baruch Hauser, to make up the 4 Talmidim in Reb Rockmill's first shir, the 4 lucky Talmidim. And as much as Reb Rockmill was known as Rabbi Avrohom, not so to his Talmidim. In fact, in the 3.5 decades I was blessed to be his Talmud, I don't remember addressing him once as Rabbi Avrohom. His godless exuded a reverence, kavod HaTorah, and a boundless, mystical kind of esteem I don't believe any of us felt his equal. This was, of course, the case considering his enormous depth, passion, and hasmada in gifts in limud HaTorah. But it really was who he was as a person that humbled us and made us so fortunate to know him. The pasuk says, "Lech lecha ma'artzecha u'moladetecha u'beis avicha al artz asher arecha." Turning away from a very promising path in America more than 50 years ago, he fervently dedicated himself to a life of limud Torah and shmiras mitzvahs. Like so many, Rebbi's journey started here in our Sameach. This yeshiva boasts thousands of great Talmidim, Talmidei Chachamim, B'nai Torah, Balabatim Chashuvim, people who have built enormous and successful Yiddish mishpachas here and in Chutz La'aretz. Why did Rav Rockmill stand out so much from this remarkable group? In short, I would like to suggest, Lefi Anias Daiti, he was an Avram of our generation. We conclude the bracha of Avos, Magen Avram. Gorm Sachim, Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, asks, why not Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? We mentioned all 3. The Gemara quotes a pasuk regarding Avram. Many are familiar with this. V'haya bracha, it says about Avram. Avram was promised, and you will be a blessing. And therefore concludes the Gemara, V'atach choismin, will conclude with you, Magen Avram. Perhaps there's a deeper understanding, as we know the special characteristics of the Avos. Avram was Chesed, Yitzchak, Gevura, Avoda, and Yaakov, Emes, and Torah. We conclude with Avram because his Midah, Chesed, is fundamental to Avoda, Torah, and Chesed as well. For when we learn Torah, we express Yaakov's message, but do we learn for ourselves, or do we learn to teach others? This is Torah's Chesed. When we daven, are we davening for ourselves alone, or mivakesh for Klal Yisrael, for others. This is avodah shebechesed. And when we do chesed, do we do it acts of kindness, besimcha, with a warm smile, or in some perfunctory way? This is chesed that can be done with chesed. Ultimately, all of our mitzvahs should include chesed as a message. And this is the message of Avram. Avram v'tachoismin. We conclude with his message. It's part of everything. Our Rebbi was a Talmid Chacham, master educator, yet not unlike our forefather Avram. He had 4 doors that were always open: his office, his home phone, his cell phone, but most importantly, the door to his heart. They were always open, and he was adamant that you enter. Torah chesed, avodah shebechesed, and chesed shebechesed. You see, many of you know, tshuva can be a perilous journey, often alienating friends, challenging family ties, and creating financial stress. How incredibly kind and meaningful it was to us that he insisted on meeting with us privately and often. Not only was he there to teach us the Gemara, but he also took the time to understand our unique challenges and aspirations. He was blessed with boundless emunah, a deep understanding of our Messiah, of life and of people. His guidance and enthusiastic support made us believe in our abilities and gave us the strength to deal and overcome so many challenges. I'll agree, I think, the Rebbe was the best listener they'd ever met. He had no distractions, no other interests, no interruptions. Warm, compassionate, and 1,000% focused on you. If he could have put a sign above his door, I think it would have said, "You will succeed in your desire to come closer to Hashem. Here, come get the game plan." His superhuman commitment to us went far, far beyond the Beis Medrash. And like Avram Avinu, he continued in his great kindness to be a father to us, to help us in our reconnection to Avinu Shebashamayim. Decades after leaving Or Sameach, he maintained close relationships with all of his Talmidim. And on a personal note, I can say that I'd come to Yeshiva probably more than most of the Talmidim were able to, but I'd walk in, he'd take me to the side, put his arm around me, and say, "Nu, Yaakov, what's doing?" That was the same Nu Yaakov what's doing when I was in his shir. Whether it was a professional dilemma, a personal struggle, or ruchnius, question and learning, he was our address for invaluable advice and support. His profound impact on our lives, on the students, is clearly evident in the reverent way that they speak about him. Rav Rockmill's legacy lives on in our hearts, minds, and the Teredik lives of all who were fortunate enough to be his Talmidim. His unwavering dedication to support this serves as a testament to the profound impact one individual can have on so many lives. And as a father figure, his sudden passing has left the yeshiva and all of the Klal Yisrael who knew him feeling on some level orphaned. May his shining example of what one person can accomplish continue to be an inspiration to us all. And may the Mishpacha and Or Sameach family be blessed with the Nechama B'Korov. Bila hamavos lo netzach, u'mach Hashem dima me'al kol panim.
after so nice putting my father in Kaporas Mishkovo in so nice Hespedim, for me it's a little bit hard to speak English, but I hope I go in success with it. And I thought maybe it's I don't need to talk, but after the chizuk that Goodwin said here, that you had told me, you have what to say? Say. There's a couple of Mishnayos and Oves that they start Uoyo Oimer. And the explain is that Memre was himself. Who said it? He said it by him. He was that. So I thought, what is Ur Yoimer from my father in Kaparas Mishkovoi? I think he would say to us, live with your emuneh, be true and straight with Hashem and with yourself and with others. And what Hillel said, Hillel Oimer, Eve mitalmidov shel Aaron, Oyev Sholoim veroidev Sholoim, Oyev esabriois umekarvon latoiro. I heard from Rabbi Moshe Schulzinger before a lot of years, that's all. He said in the name from Reb Chatzkel Avramsky, he said in a Hesped that the Posuk in Bereshis, Ze Sefer Toildois Odom. So he said, every person has his Sefer. The first page is the day that he got born. The last page is when he's nifter. And all his life is the pages of the book. That is what was his book, what we said, Emuneh, Emes, Ava Sabries, 3 Alephs, and also Achrayus. We heard in the Shiva, I want to say 3 stories and shortly, then we're going to say there is someone came, he knows him 45 years. And he said that he didn't learn by him, but he feels that he's his Rebbe. Why? After he got married, he would see him and ask him what's going with him. So he would tell him, we have a koilel and we have good shiurim. So he told him back, I didn't ask, I understand your Rosh Koilel is making a big steigen, is learning good, but what's with you? What's your program? 45 years, he says, he knows. He's going to see him and he's going to ask him what he accomplished. To where he got more, what his program afterwards. So he called him, that is his Rebbe. He didn't let him by Shurim. A Talmid came from America. He said that he was after a year and a half, he was in Yeshiva, maybe in Koilel also. He told him he ran after out of money, he needs to come back to America. He said, a couple of hours, he went with him, what I can do that you're going to stay here? And then he told him, he told him, now you had a son, your limud in the yeshiva is going to help you. But what was going to be with your son? He needs you can stay more. And then he stayed, and Baruch Hashem, he said himself, he's zoiche to very nice mishpoche, bnin v'chasnin Rabbonim. And the third story is a bochu, and now he's not a bochu. Someone came inside, he said that in the last years, my father in Kaporat Mishkova, he would send a Mishloach Mones to his parents. And he sent also a shtickle in the Mishloach Mones, he sent something also for him, some funny scene. And he said that he had a very bad, very bad tkufe, and that helped him, gave him chizuk. So I want to ask, also I ask my friends how they are. Also I can do some joke with somebody, give him a little bit chizuk. I don't see that it's so much pia. What was the koyach from the ashpoe that he had? Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, I heard it from my Rebbi, Reb Yudar Yershler, Zichrono Livroche. He told me in the name of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. He asked this following kashe. Says that Avrohom Avinu gave his orchim, gave them bread, and he gave them water. Because that, Am Yisrael was zoiche in the midbar to get man and to get the water from the bear. And it says because the bread was by him himself, so we got man from Shamayim. And because the water was Yukachno, somebody else gave the water, so it was also Alidei Shliach. We needed to come to Moshe Rabbeinu, went with a Shliach. Ask the Chaim Shulevitz, what's the big sin here? Also, I give my guest to eat bread and to drink. How is Zoiche so much from this deeds? So he said, example from the Gemara, says that when Manachamoves wanted to take Rab Chiye, so he went to his house and he knocked by the door. So he opened, he asked him, what do you want? So he said, I want a bread. Okay, so he went to bring him bread. So when he brings him it, so he told him, no, I don't need that, I need you my bread. So he told him, okay, so take me. Said Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, what says in this Maise? That when Rab Chiye went to bring the only bread, he didn't go to bring him bread. When somebody comes to him, he needs to give him, he gave himself. If what he needs is bread, so take the bread. You need me? Okay, so I come in. It's all in how we give him himself. There's in a positive, in a tzure from giving him bread. But if he needs himself, so he's giving also himself. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and today I added the rare in it, that is the pshat. Avrohom Avinu, when he gives the guest food and water, he doesn't give them the food and the water. He gives them all himself. He is there. You can take what you want. You can take me, everything. That is his achnosas orchim. And that is the mido keneged mido. That they got man and water. Man, it's lechem abirim. It's lechem from malochim. Because Baruch Hu can gave kivyochel Am Yisrael everything. Avrohom Avinu gave all himself. So Hashem gave Am Yisrael we can't put on the mind that Am Yisrael is going, Yelud Isho is going to eat food from Malochim. It's on without a gvul. So I think that is the teretz also, and my father in Gavos Mishkovoi, why I can say, I can say also somebody, how are you, to give him a chizuk, maybe help him. But by him, he didn't give the sins. He gave all himself to the other one. What he needs a shtickl chizuk, he's getting chizuk. He needs a shur teure, he's giving teure. He needs Ezra for himself, he gives him for himself. He needs Ezra to his moised. He wants everybody to give him himself. What you need, just say. We need to learn from that. Everything we do, we need to do with all ourselves for Hashem. And Mimele, if our tafkid is to do everything that comes alone by us, we need to do it in the shleimus, in all our koichois. Be'ezer Hashem, we going to succeed. And Be'ezer Hashem, we will zoiche that tivula amoves lo netzach, umocha Hashem alekim dimo me'al kol ponim v'noim amomim.
התוהו השם האלוקים אשר בוחרתו באברום ויצאסו מאור כסדים ושמתו שמו אברהם ומוצאסו אס לבובוי נמו לפניך. Each and every one of us says this pasuk every morning. As we know, this pasuk is talking about that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saving Avraham from Nimrod's fire thorns, and about the 10 Nisyonos that came to Avraham afterwards. And about that afterwards, after he succeeded in the 10 Nisyonos, it was found that his heart is loyal and honest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I may, I would like to refer to the pasuk in a different way. I would like to read the pasuk towards our father and teacher. Atohu Hashem Elokim asher bocharto beAvrom. A little over 50 years ago, in the great America, a spiritual wilderness desert, there was a boy who was having and believing in God and knowledge about his Yiddishkeit. This boy was called Avram. Atohu Hashem Elokim asher bocharto beAvrom. You as a God that chose this boy to live in the house of Hashem. Ve'otzeiso me'ur kasdim. Indeed, not from physical fire, but definitely brought him out of spiritual wilderness. And you gave V'samto shmo Avraham, and you gave his name Avraham. The name symbolizes the essence of man. Changing of name as a meaning I've added to the person tools, opportunities, and abilities. V'samto shmo Avraham. You gave him new tools, new abilities, and new opportunities. You brought him to Israel, to Eretz Israel, to study Torah in this holy yeshiva. And the holy yeshivas and the highest level there is. You brought him to Eretz Israel to hear Musa talks and refine his whole essence. You gave him the opportunity to establish a house of Torah. You gave him the opportunity to teach Torah in this holy yeshiva. You have given him many students that he can give them the best he can. You gave him the strength and the tools to invest those students. This taken was by a special miracle which God prevented Avram the ability to continue his medical studies, and he had to take a year off. And in addition, God also prevented Avram the possibility to find a job for that period. And the job that had already accepted fired him. As a result of those two things, Avram found himself traveling to Israel for a period of time within this year. Avram never returned. Avram became Avram. When we speak about a person that his heart is Nemon, first of all, he has to have a heart. After he has a heart, his heart could be Nemon. When we speak about a heart, when we speak about a person who has a heart, we are speaking about a person with deep feelings and special sensitivity to delicate context. A person who has emotions. The demand from the person is that all his intellectual knowledge will turn into emotions. That's slave. Nemon, loyalty exists when there is honesty and commitment. Loyal is a man that he can be trusted. Moshe Rabbeinu is called Eved Nemon, meaning that all his actions are one Nemon. But Avraham Avinu says here a special thing. It's not just the Eved Nemon, it's Levavoi Nemon. Meaning all his feels, all his emotions, all of his agoshes are enslaved, are honest. And when the feelings themselves are loyal, that is Avram's special virtue. That is the special virtue of our Father. His emotions were always a tefach above the ground. His emotions always uplifted his listeners. Many students said that the rabbi was the one who could influence them in Musar. And that is because that the loyalty was directed not only towards Hashem, but also towards each and every student. And also, and not that only, but the loyalty, not only the loyalty, but also the heart, also the love and the care existed towards each and every one. And you will be surprised to hear, yes, not only towards students, but towards everyone that the rabbi filled is able to maintain contact with and influence. First of all, I would like to thank to all those who gave efforts for the honor of our Father. Thanks to all those who spoke about our Father, the Rebbi, at the Levaya, at the Yeshiva, and now. Thanks to all those who took their time and shared with us their feelings. Thanks to all those who wrote us about our fathers and sent us letters and emails for a special box we opened for this purpose. And this occasion, we must mention that definitely we, the family, and so are the students, and so is the Rabbi Zatzal, committed with deep gratitude, deep across the toiv, to this place, Yeshiva So Sameach, the place that was Father's platform to his Avodas Hashem. It was this connection between Father and Yeshiva So Sameach that made it possible for our Father to implement everything he believed. We must also remember that all of us, anyone has the benefit from his teachings, his words, his device, his work. We are committed with deep gratitude, across the toiv, to our mother, the Rebbetzin. She took on herself all of the difficulties of the house and allowed him to dedicate himself between the day, between the night, between the winter and summer, between Zman and Bein Hazmanim, between normal days, between stressful days. For example, Erev Shabbos or Erev Pesach, she always took everything on herself. And not only that, but was also always happy to host students with a beautiful and pleasant welcome. She always took part in the relationship with the students and their families, and all with love and joy. And there's no doubt that Rabbi Akiva's words that were said about his wife Rochel, Sheli v'shalochem shelohi, mine and yours belong to her. It is also said about my mother. We wish her to be able to continue with all her strengths to sanctify the name of heaven in the world, and should be zoiche for nachas from our children and also from his students. Yes, that is er nachas too.
The hour is late. I was asked to make the Hadran, Baruch Hashem, Le'ilui Nishmasai Shel Yididenu, Rav Avram, Zechrenu Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, the Bakrim of the Yeshiva, the Rabbonim, other people as well, were Mishtatef to make a Siyum in Sheshes Sidrei Mishnah, the 6 orders of the Mishnah. One should know, of course, what a wonderful, wonderful Ili Neshama this is. The Beis Halevi told his son Reb Chaim that the day that you don't learn Mishnayos, Le'ili Nishmasi, you should not say Kaddish, because the Mishnayos is much more important than even the Kaddish. This is what the Beis Halevi told Reb Chaim, Mishnayos, Mishnah, Asias Neshama. And even though this is a Maisa about a son doing it for a father, it mamish applies here, because to Avram, every single Talmud, and really virtually everyone else as well, was really a son. He was really a father to everyone that was zeicha to know him. He gave of his time, he gave of his kaiches, he gave of his wisdom, he gave of his Torah, not simply as a Rebbe, but the Emerson, all the Talmidim were upon him. it's unbelievable. I knew Michayim, I knew all of this, but I find more and more and more and more things that many people might not have known about the impact he had in everyone's life. So what the Beis Levi said about the Mishnayos for a son to a father, Vadai applies for all of the Talmidim in the schus of the Rebbi. It's Yadua that in the Hakdama of Chuvas Chasam Sofer in Yeridea, the Chasam Sofer is aimed on the fact that the Navi Yeshaya quotes HaKadosh Baruch Hu calling Avram, Avram Ayhavi. Avram is the one who loves me. And the Chasam Sofer is aimed, why of all of the Avais, Avraham is singled out as the one who loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Chasam Sofer says, because what did Avram do with his life? Avram was Makarev people. Avram dealt with the Avodah Zarah. Avram is Mitapel B'Sdaim. He's Mispawel for Sedaim. Certainly, if Avram would have been concerned for his own Madrega, he should have been Mispaited. He should have left all that world. He could have learned all day. He could have been Mispaited this all day. And maybe on some level he would have achieved a higher spiritual level. But that would have been if he was worried about himself. But he loved Hashem. And if he loved Hashem, he loved HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children. And therefore Avram is called Ayavi, because he was willing to be Mavatir on his own Aliyah in order to love Hashem by loving HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children. And the Chasam Sofer says, that is the emistic meaning of Mesiras Nefesh. If I give up my life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's Mesiras HaGuf. I give up my guf. Mesiras Nefesh, says the Chasam Sofer, is when a person is willing to even give up the madregas and learning and avodah he could have achieved for the zikoy harabim, to be marbik kavod shamayim. And that's the siman of the person who loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't just love himself, whatever madregas he achieves. He loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They say by Rav Shlomo Hyman, great Talmud of Baruch Ber, who became Rosh Yeshiva in Torah V'das for a short time, that once he was giving a share, and at that time in America there were not a lot of people learning Torah. He was giving a share to a few people, 5 people. And he was doing it b'hislavus, enthusiasm. So somebody asked him, shtickle chutzpah, a question. He says, listen, in Europe you had 300 people and you were giving a share in Vilna. Now you have 5 people. Why are you acting as if you're teaching 100 people? So he said, I'm not giving share to 5 people. These 5 people, B'Yesras Hashem, are going to have mishpachas and children and grandchildren. I'm giving share to the thousands of people and more. They're going to come. I don't see the present as it simply is. I see that this present is the garin, is the shirish of an osid that will be glorious and beautiful. The emes is, this was the whole founding vision of Or Sameach, the few Talmidim that were here 52 years ago. At that point, you can say, what am I doing? I'm teaching 5 people, 4 people. And yet, Baruch Hashem, we see the ripple effects. And this was Rav Avrahom's vision always, always. He saw in every Talmud not just an Eilam Malay of the Talmud himself, but he saw in every Talmud what that Talmud will become, the ripple effects of his mishpacha, of his children, of his grandchildren, of his Talmidim, of the people that he'll be mashpia on. Ha'echad yiyeh li'elef. From the one will taka come out 1,000. And that is why, as was remarked, it made no big difference to him if he was teaching 1 person or teaching 100 people. Because in the one, he also saw the 100. So, Baruch Hashem, I think, all of the thousands and thousands of people that have been influenced by him are a testament to how correct he was, how emistic he was. And the fact that Baruch Hashem, even Masechtas, so Shver Masechtas, Kalim and Ayolas, Negayim, Mamish and Yonim, that many people might never even get around to learning. We see that Gufa, Rav Rockmill, was Mezakeh the Tzibor, that we should cover those chalakim of Torah as well. Again, there's a tremendous chalal when a tzaddik is nifter like this. There's a tremendous vacuum in the world, and we have an achrayus to try to be mamala the chalal, none of us can fill up everything that he was in terms of individuals. But collectively, we try to be mashlim the chisaron in the bria, to be marba kavod shemayim. Yeah, we'll just read the last line of Maseches Hooks and the last Maseches in Shas. That when the Eibishter was looking for a kli, a utensil that could hold all the brachas, like a box, it was shalom. Shalom is not only a bracha, shalom is the kli that's machzik all brachas. And la shalom shenema Hashem aiz liyamo yitain Hashem yivarech esamai v'shalom. Hashem gives us kayach, the ability to receive all of the things that Hashem gives us when He gives us the bracha of shalom. Again, Rabbi Avrohom was above all an ish shalom. The pasuk says in Zechariah, "Ha'emes v'shalom ehavu." A yid has to love emes, and a yid has to love shalom. The Kutzker Rebbi used to say, it's easy to love emes if you don't care about shalom. I'll just be a kanoi. And it's easy to love shalom if you don't care about emes. Everything is good. But to be an ish emes and an ish shalom, it's a little bit of a tarta de sasre in the Welt that we live. But the pasuk says we got to live with contradictions. Ha'emes v'shalom ahavu. The great Nifter was a person who was absolutely an ish emes in every prat. But somehow he miraculously managed to pull it off by being an ish shalom at the same time. Yehi zichrei baruch. So I will just recite the Hadran and the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Hadran alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadrachalan, Daitan alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadaitachalan, Lo Nishni Minach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vasashni Minan, Lo Bialma Hadain, Lay Bialma Diasi. Hadran alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadrachalan, Daitan alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadaitachalan, Lo Nishni Minach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, V'lo Tisnashni Minan, Lo Bialma Hadain, Lo Bialma Diasi. Hadran alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadrachalan, Daitan alach Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, Vadaitachalan, Loi nisnashi minach shisha sidrei mishnah v'loi tisnashni minan lo b'yalma deim lo b'yalma diasi HaRav Avrohom Rockmill to raise Sarascha b'fiyas amcha b'Yisrael v'niyah kulanu v'nachnu tzatzeinu v'tzatzei tzatzeinu tzatzei amcha b'Yisrael kulanu yedei shemacha l'mdei sarasacha lishma v'yayavai tachtimeni mitzvaysacha ki li'aylam hi libi tamim b'chukacha l'man lo yavaish li'aylam lo yashach b'chudecha Ki vamchi yisani baruch atah Adonai lamdeini chukecha. Amen, amen, amen. Salavad. Ma'idem anachnu l'fnach Adonai Eloheinu ve'aviseinu shesamte chalkeinu miyeshrei beis hamedrash lo samte chalkeinu miyeshrei karanes. Sha'anu mashkimim ve'hem mashkimim. Anu mashkimim l'divrei Torah ve'hem mashkimim l'dvarim b'teilim. Anu amelim ve'hem amelim. Anu amelim v'mekablim sechar ve'hem amelim ve'hem mekablim sechar. Anu ratzim v'heim ratzim, anu ratzim l'chayei ha'olam haba v'heim ratzim l'bershachas shenemar v'yata elihim teridem l'bershachas anshei damim v'yemeyem v'yani eftach b'chi ratzon l'fanach Adonai Eloheinu v'le'aviseinu kishem shazartanu l'sayim shisha sidrei mishnah kain ta'azreinu l'haschil l'svar machayim l'saymam l'ilmoid l'lamed lishmar v'lasis l'kayim es kol divrei salma tarisacha b'yava Uzachus kol hatanoim v'amayraim v'samidei chachamim yamaid lanu l'zarenu l'zera zarenu shlotamu shatera akdaishim mipinu mipi zarenu v'zera zarenu ad olam v'yiskayim banu mikra shekaza b'salecha chatancha isach v'shachva tishmar lecha v'kitzaysa hi tesichacha ki vi yirbu yamacha v'yasifa lecha shnei schayim eirech yomim v'mina Bismillah Aisha B'Chavayid Adonai Ayis Yamo Yitain Adonai Yivarech Zama B'Shalom.
Izgadel v'izkadesh shmei Rabam Don modu osid litzchadoso lechayom isayu l'asoko yosoy lechayom mol mivnei kartot Yerushalem l'shach lo yichale b'gavei ולמקר פולחונו נוחו מן הרול הסופו פולחונו תשמעו ולעשרים נפקוד שבריחו במלכוס אבי קוראי חיי יכולנו וימי יכולנו וחיי דכל בייס ישראל, בגולו ובזמן קורי ובאמרו אמן. יש רבו מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיו. יסבורך וישתבח ויסבורך וישרמם ויסנשי ויסדור ויסלה ויסלול שמי דקודשו בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכוסו ושירוסו ושבחוסו ונחמוסו נאמירון בעולמו ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנון ועל תלמידיון ועל כל תלמידי תלמידיון ועל כל מאן דעוסקים בערייס ודי ועשרו קדישות דין ודי בכל השר והשר. יהי אלוהינו לכל שלמה רבו חינו וחסדו ורחמים וחיים נריחים ומזנרת וחי ופולקונו מן קודם אבו ידי ושמיו והרוב ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבו מן שמיו וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. ועושה שלום אמרו עמו וברחמו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
A big mazel tov to all the bochrim, Talmidim, which were mishtatef in the Siyum Shas. Beis Hashem should be laid in the Shmosoi. There'll be refreshments after Mincha. There'll be refreshments outside as a Suda Siyum for the Siyum now. Now there's Mincha straight away. Just to be clear, the refreshments are after Mincha, Beis Hashem.